Welcome home. It's Irish Family History with curious news and notes, celebrating our 4th year of this podcast at the Irish Roots Cafe, where every day's a holiday and there's always room for one more. One of 6 broadcast series from the head school at irishroots.com. I'm Mike OLaughlin, your host, publisher of rare Irish books and information on every county in Ireland since 1978. Be sure to read our blog, complete with links to click on from this podcast, and search our master index and books for free. Molly, wet the tea, Katie, bar the door, Sweeney, clear that floor, and bring out the Irish dancers. It's time we get this show on the road. Oh, and it's the Irish Family History Show number 184. This is really our 6th year of this podcast, and we've also got show notes published at irishroots.com. We got a busy one today. Here's the notes for the day. Number 1, the family name of the day is Rodgers. Number 2, the Irish county of the month is Limerick. Number 3, searching for O'Hara, Sheerin, and Tarrant. Number 4, Oklahoma and Ireland. What's that about? Number 5, the web page of the month, Irish Archives Go Online. Number 6, St. Patrick's Day in Boston and all those areas around there. I got a link on that. And a 1-minute podcast looking for Gelshinan or Gunshinan roots. That's a special interview coming up right now. We're going to change our format a little bit. Here's an interview I did with Bethany Frank just last week, and she interviewed me last year, so I thought I'd return the favor on her Irish family. So here is her connection right now. Bethany, how you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thank you. Right at this minute, I'm in San Francisco, California.
Well, that's good. And when I talked to you last year, where were you?
Natchitoches, Louisiana.
Now, can you tell us about your Irish ancestors and those roots?
I can tell you a little bit.
That's good.
The stories are kind of all meshed up.
Sure.
When I spoke with you this summer, I had spoken with my mother growing up about our family and the fact that we're Irish. And the general one is that my great-grandparents met on the boat to America.
Yeah.
My grandmother was from Ireland, and my grandfather was from Holland.
And do you know their surnames, their last names?
I do. My grandfather is de Young, and then my grandmother, there's 4 different spellings.
Yeah.
Gunshinan or Gelshinan.
How do you spell that?
All right, on her baptismal certificate, it was Gunshinan. All right, on her marriage certificate, it is Gelshinan.
Now, she came over with your grandfather. Do you know about what era that was?
Was born on May 31st in 1896.
Okay, so that gives us a little bit of an idea of what we're talking about. Do you remember now what county your grandmother came from?
Her birth certificate or baptismal certificate was done in Longford, Ireland.
Oh, yeah, County Longford, yeah, and maybe Longford City, County Longford, who knows?
There was a fire, so a lot of my great-grandmother's records were burned down.
Yes.
So, but my aunt has some of this, and I guess it was in some of my grandmother's belongings. And my great-grandparents' sponsors,
yes,
when they came, apparently when they came through to America, they had to have a family sponsor.
Good.
And so we have Mary and John Atkins. Pretty much, my aunt said that my grandmother she was a cleaning woman and she cleaned toilets.
Yeah.
That's the extent of her work history that she knew of. Yes, sir.
And you had the sponsors who were Atkins.
Other than just some personal stuff, like they have the birth years for my grandmother, but they were all jumbled up, depending on which document you looked at.
Yes, they all change.
Depending on when she was born.
That's common. It changes depending on who you're talking to.
Yeah, a lot of it with my mother was just kind of stories, specifically around St. Patrick's Day or school projects. Going, oh, these are your ancestors.
She didn't have the written records, but she knew it.
She knew it.
Any other family traditions or likes or dislikes that you think might have been passed on to you from your ancestors?
I'm not really sure. I know as far as Irish goes and tradition, We for New Year's, I'm not sure which culture it was. I'm a little bit of a mutt, but we do the pennies outside for wealth.
Yes, okay, like a luck penny sort of thing.
Yeah, we do
Yes,
that. We eat herring for good luck
yes.
on New Year's, which I'm not sure if that's German or Irish. So there's a few other like little quirky things. For St. Patrick's Day, we do the corned beef and cabbage, and I've never been in a town where they had an Irish parade.
Okay,
Like
so
a,
you just celebrate St. Patrick's Day.
yeah, within our family, like it's my mother would make a big deal about it.
Yeah.
She's all excited. She did the potatoes and everything else. I'm not really sure. I think it's exciting and it's fun to kind of learn some of the things. I know there's the Catholicism aspect of Ireland that's still with us, and some of the little things, and it's neat to see what came from what. And I'm glad that you're here to help make that happen.
Well, have you ever thought about going back to Longford?
I know I want to go to Ireland someday and do the whole Irish thing. I just recently learned that Longford was where we're from, I guess.
Yes,
So
yes.
it's definitely not something not to do.
Oh, our thanks to Bethany for that. I sure enjoyed that. It's always nice to talk to somebody starting out and just getting ready to do that search. Because, we all were there sometime, or most of us were anyway. And now we're going to move on to the book of the month. And we got two of them. They're going to be the two books I've done on County Limerick, Ireland. One's hardbound, one's spiral bound, and they both have different attitudes. The hardbound one's 184 pages. It's the Families of County Limerick, Ireland, and it's indexed with maps and illustration. But here's a little example of, in modern times, the families that are given as being the most numerous there, and they're ranked with the number of families, but I'll just read the names. Ryan, O'Brien, Fitzgerald, Sullivan, Hayes, like O'Hee, Walsh, Collins, O'Connell, Murphy, Maloney, O'Connor, and Lynch. And you also have McNamara, O'Donnell, and Ahern coming along there. Now, there's a lot more families, of course, but that's just some of the leading ones I mentioned in the introduction to that book. And now if you go to the second book, the Spiral Bound book, I took an excerpt out of that. I'm going to try to do something new each time the books come up. And we're talking about coat of arms connected to families in County Limerick, and here we've got some old illustrations of arms, and we find some families of Atkinson, Berry of Sandville, Bernard, O'Brien of Caramoyle, Bury, Cooper, Coote, Croker, Delmage, Dixon, Evans, Fane, Fitzgerald, Good, Verschoyle. That's Verschoyle. I run into that quite a bit when I was doing that book of arms. And O'Grady of Kilballyowen, and Green, and Gillimore, and Holmes, and Jocelyn, and Kelly, and Lloyd, and Lowe, and Lyons, and Lysett, and Massey, and Mansell, and Maroney, and Perry, Pomeroy, Quinn, Rose, Ross, Lewin, Seymour, Southwell, Tracy, Tuttle, Waller, and Westrop, all with County Limerick connections. So that's just a little bit of what I had in that second book. Both of those books are published by the Irish Roots Cafe. I've got links to both of them on the blog, where more families are mentioned just in the description to the book. And, of course, if you wanted a book, you could get it too, or find a way to go to the library and read it for free. Whatever works for you, you know what I mean? And that also reminds we've got three things to remember for you here. We've got a podcast that I speak out in my own voice. We've got a blog reader where our blog is read by a computer voice. You get that by clicking on the blog. And we also have the blog itself, which can be read anytime, night or day. And it has some extra things in it that the podcast doesn't have, and the podcast has some things that the blog doesn't have. So both of them are well worth your while. And gosh, what do you got coming up now? Is it already that time? It's time for the Magnificent Seven. Raise our eyes skyward. Give thanks and ask for help. Hey, coming up in just a second, we've got Irish Archives going online and Flax Growers List link for 1796, just in case you didn't already know about it. Well, here's our top seven. Judy Bramall of Windsor Heights, Iowa. Your Families of County Cork has shipped. Number 2, welcome new member Dennis Tarrant of Aurora, Colorado, searching for birth records for grandparents Dennis Tarrant around 1864 he was born, and probably in Enniskeane, County Cork, and father John Tarrant, mother Joanna Tarrant, and Mary Fitzgerald, born 1866, father Richard Fitzgerald, and mother Nora. Number 3, Joanne Sheerin of Wilmington, Delaware. Your Families of County Donegal and Beginner's Irish Genealogy Guide has shipped. Number 4, welcome new member Barbara Widmer of Loveland, Ohio. The family arrived in 1830 in the U.S. Joseph and Andrew Rodgers is the one she's looking for. Those are the names. That's the name of the week. Number 5, Dana Murphy of Roseville, California. Your Kings and Queens County, Ireland genealogy book shipped. Number 6, new member Joanne Sheerin, one more time, of Wilmington, Delaware. She also joined as a member besides those books. And the Sheerin and Maltman families are who she's looking at. And she promised her children and grandchildren she'd find all the info on both families. So I gave her 2 listings today. We're going to do our best to help out. Number 7, welcome renewing member William O'Hara of East Rockaway, New York. Your Clare and Limerick genealogy books have shipped, and they're searching 1860 to present for Brooklyn, New York. Michael J., born 1858, married Hannah Doran, August 1858. And hey, thanks to every one of our members. Couldn't do it without you. I need the memberships and the books. I appreciate it. Well, now we're moving up to the Irish family name of the day, and hey, there's nothing wrong with that. That's good, especially during St. Patrick's time, where people can learn a little bit more about their family history. They might be a little more receptive to it right now, busy with jobs and work and everyday life, and St. Patrick's Day come up, and you might have some more time to jaw about it, think about it, and really get into it. Get hooked in this genealogy thing. But the name is Rodgers, and we're spelling it Rodgers. Can also be spelled Rogers. You can find some Mac Rodgers, and you even find the name like Rodgerson that has been shortened to Rodgers. And this is in honor of our member today, Barbara Widmer, and it's part of variant spelling groups 1286, 1366, and 1806 from the Guide to the Various Spellings of Irish Family Names. I've got a link on the blog. Let's take a look at a couple of quick notes on the name. The 1890 birth index finds the family numerous in Antrim, Down, Dublin, and Roscommon, and Rodgers is also a fairly numerous English name. Then that surely accounts for some, if not most, of the name in Ireland. I'm not sure. Now, McRory is an Irish name which has been changed to Rodgers or Rodgers as well. Now, if we take a look in our Families of the Clan Rory in Ireland book, we find MacRory and or Rodgers, Rodgers, given as chiefs of Dalbuin, centered in Upper Masserine and specific adjoining parishes. So, hey, there's something you can find in a book that helps you. You might not know about it unless you heard it here. Now, the book Irish Families on the California Trail, that also gives Rodgers and McGuinness among the early settlers in Bakerville in the American West. And I'm not sure that, it's along the trail there. Might have been a little north of it. And you also find Rogerstown, County Dublin, is given in the Irish Book of Arms. Now we take a quick look here. Hey, the Irish family coats of arms from the Irish Book of Arms. What we just took before was from our other books and the Book of Irish Families, Great and Small. If we take a look in the Irish Book of Arms, we find MacRory, MacRory, spelling is listed among the Irish septs in the Irish Book of Arms. And that's the MacRory name I talked about earlier that can be shortened simply to Rory. And one other note was it was there was something important there, and now I can't remember what it is. Isn't that the way it goes? You think you know what you're talking about, and then all of a sudden you lose your place. Oh, the 1890 birth index. I was going to say, if you find your name in the 1890 birth index, that's not just good for 1890. That's really good for quite a while. I'd say it's good for that whole 19th century, all of the 1800s. The majority of the family is going to be found where that book says it is, with maybe 5 or 6 exceptions, forced removal, things like that. That's good for that whole century. So don't be fooled by one specific date. And, hey, we're going to have one more last section on this. We're going to talk about the free master index online for the names. Coming up later this episode, we're going to give you links to the Cove Heritage Center in County Cork. That's Queenstown, don't you know? And a family tree maker for Mac OS X. If you're on Mac, you'll love to hear about that. Now let's look at that free master index online at irishroots.com. We show a listing for the name 24 times. Here are just a few examples from that, and you can do the same thing with your name. Just go there and type it in, and you'll get these returns. W. Rodgers in County Derry, or Londonderry, Genealogy and Family History book. Rodgers and Rodgers in the History of Clanroy Families. Rodgers and Rodgers in the names of Irish passengers to America. And here we also have the name in the 1659 Irish census and in Milesian families of Ireland. And Mac Rodgers in County Tyrone, Ireland, Genealogy and Family History Notes. That's a nice little book from my series. And number 6, Rodgers of Meath is found in the Annals of Ireland by the Four Masters, and I think one other's in there too. And J. Rodgers in County Limerick, Ireland, Genealogy and Family History Notes. So, hey, remember, use that free index. It might tell you what counties your name is in without even going to read the book, especially if it's a rare one. Ooh, now it's that time for Around the World in Irish Ways. Well, it's time for the web pages and the videos of the month that we happen to just fall across. Number 1, the Limerick Aenid Graveyard just outside the town of Croom. The oldest headstone from 1723 was for John Cantillon, and that's a YouTube video, link on the blog. Number 2, the Rodgers family singing a gospel concert in Newfoundland. And anybody look familiar if you got that Rodgers family? Hey, you can even tell if they sing like you, too. Let's hope that's a good thing. Got a link on the blog. Number 3, Rodgers Genealogy Queries page, and that's on Cousin Connect. They got a pretty good setup for just starting out searching. So that's RODGERS for our member, just in case they're looking. And number 4, Ireland's archive collections go online, and that includes things like some workhouse records. And it's starting out as a big descriptive site as to what's being held in all these archives. Sometimes they don't know. They just say, we've got a set of 24 boxes full of records. Where they're going through them and they're putting them online, you're going to know what those records are. And eventually they say they're going to digitize entire collections. And boy, the world will be at your fingertips there, won't it? Now, the actual site's going to be www.iar.ie. We've got a link to that story from thejournal.ie on the blog. And we also got some Irish video shorts that are still out there that I did a couple years ago on some basic things about genealogy and history. And more to follow if I can ever catch my breath. Now, here it is St. Patrick's Day. I don't have time enough to do anything new. I'm going to have to get a new strategy going. Now it's time for everybody's favorite, the last segment, Curious News and Notes. Well, here what we got today. Number 1, Family Tree Maker for Mac OS X has been released in the UK, and that includes a 6-month subscription to Ancestry. I wonder if they got that here. And got a link on the blog to that. And number 2, the Cove Heritage Center, that's spelled COBH, which used to be Queenstown, in County Cork. The Queenstown story, they've got a nice little page on the blog I got to remind you of. And that's, where the famous Annie Moore statue is found. And I think they have a little Titanic museum or restaurant there, too. Number 3, Mahan steals violin while owner talks on cell phone. London court, here's the tale. You can find that on the blog on the web just by typing it in. The fella tried to sell this violin for $162. The nice lady who owned the violin was on the cell phone or was texting, and they picked it up and left. It was a $2 million violin. They tried to sell it for $162. I think that violin's still missing, but that's an interesting story. Not very bright, was it? Number 4, comparing Oklahoma and Ireland, and hat tip to Noreen Bowden on Twitter for that one. Just a little story comparing some of the economies and troubles and lifestyles there. Number 5, St. Patrick's Day 2011 in New England. Rock shows, traditional shows, the local scene. Hey, that's on the BostonMusicSpotlight.com, link on the blog. Number 6, the Irish Flax Growers List for 1796. That flax growers list has been around for a while, but in case you're not familiar with it, there's a source for up there in the north of Ireland in that time period, which is often hard to come by. So that's the 6 top things here. I'm getting ready to set up all our St. Patrick's Day things. And you know what I'm doing this year? For the evening, we're going up to the university. They got a special display of some books up there at the Spencer Library. That's in Lawrence. And we're going to go up there. There's a reception. We're going to hear a nice little talk and then view that collection, which they say is one of the best of its kind outside of the city of Dublin, Ireland itself. So, hey, if you're in Lawrence by the university there, I think it was the Spencer collection, but they're going to have a little reception ahead of time, about 5:30 or so, 5 or 5:30. So you might look that up, contact them, and I'll see you there. I think Molly's coming along too, so we could have a real good meeting there and talk books and Irish and Ireland and antiquities, don't you know? So that's what I'm doing St. Patrick's Day evening. Now, in my younger days, I did things a whole lot differently, but you know what? Change is just the spice of life, and I'm sure going to enjoy this. And there's no telling what I'm doing during the day, but I'm going to have to temper it because I have something important to do at night, don't you know? Hey, and the Irish lessons down at the Irish Museum in Kansas City, I hear they're going fine, and Renata's having a good time with that. And it's Irish Language Week all across the world, so everybody enjoy it. That's all for today, folks. Joseph, warm up those pipes. Remember, we have a broadcast series on Irish song and recitation, on local history of the Irish in America, and on 2,000 years of Irish history, as well as on the counties, and something special coming up on Irish language, I hope. We've got all that and more at our head school at irishroots.com. And you know, we've been known to appear, exhibit, teach, and even sing for your special events. Be sure to book in advance if it's important. And write me at my American address at Irish Roots Cafe, Box 7575, Kansas City, Missouri, 64116. Leave a message by phone at 816-256-3360. Reach me on my webpage at irishroots.com. Skype me at the Irish Roots Cafe. Get me on MySpace, Facebook, Twitter, and Irish Central. Members foot the bill so they get first priority, but we're open to all. And by the way, a big thank you to all of our members. And away.